This episode is brought to you by Triggered 22 LLC, a veteran-owned apparel company. By purchasing a t-shirt, hat, or hoodie from Triggered 22, you're not only supporting a small business, but you're bringing awareness to veteran PTSD and suicide. Please help save the lives of those who fought for our freedoms. Visit triggered22.com now and place your order. Let's help those suffering from invisible wounds.
Welcome to the American Grown Podcast, hosted by Austin Sullivan. The American Grown Podcast will focus on people from different walks of life and their journey to where they are now. Now, turn up your volume and settle in for a great episode.
Hi, I'm Austin Sullivan. This is the American Grown Podcast, recorded inside the ColorTech Creative Solutions Studios. Today, we have Jiorle, a local yoga instructor and mental health consultant. Julia, welcome to episode 41 of the American Grown Podcast.
Thank you, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming in. So some of the topics we want to cover include, how you got started in yoga, and also I think it's very important to talk about the benefits of adding yoga into your daily routine.
Sure.
Such a small world, but how we actually got introduced was through Colleen Jones.
Yes.
How do you know her?
Her husband, we went to college with, or my husband and I also went to college with, and we lived together for a while. We were roommates. So Colleen kind of came in the picture in the midst of all of that. And yeah, we've been friends ever since.
And where'd you go to school?
Lebanon Valley College.
Oh, LVC.
Yeah,
Sweet.
LVC.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're a client of ours here at ColorTech. We do some printing, and they're one of our clients. So
wonderful.
Shout out to LVC.
Yes.
Awesome.
Good school.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And beautiful campus, I think, here in Lebanon Valley. So it was last November, actually. I looked it up. Colleen had reached out over LinkedIn and said, hey, Julie, I think you're kind of maybe new to the area, or you're just getting into yoga. That was it? Yeah.
I was just getting into yoga. I just got my yoga teacher training certificate last year.
Okay.
So I'm pretty new to teaching yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And she had reached out because she knows, with the family business here being established since 1980, having some connections and things. And I was just like, what a small world, because my wife used to work with Colleen at Martin Communications.
Of course.
Yeah, over in Mechanicsburg. So it was just such a small world, and everything came together. And I'm glad to finally get you in the studio, because I know it's been a while. I didn't want you thinking like, oh, what's this guy doing? Is he ever going to reach out? Because I know there's some other people that want to be guests and have filled out the form. It's like, I'm coming. I'm getting around, everyone.
It's quite all right. Yeah. That's fine.
Again, thank you for coming in. What was, your early childhood like, growing up, and, where were you born and raised? All that good stuff.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I grew up in this area. I grew up in Annville.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And, I never had a reason to leave, everything I needed. And, I loved this area. I loved this community. Grew up in Annville. My mom worked at Lebanon Valley College. So they had a great psychology program. So I went to LVC. So my college was right there.
That's perfect. Right. Short commute.
Yeah, short commute. And then I went to grad school a couple years after that. I went to Millersville.
Okay. Yeah, down in Lancaster. Yeah. Millersville, great programs down there.
Everything I needed was right here. And I have a great family, great circle of friends and family around me.
Okay.
My husband moved here from Phillipsburg, New Jersey, to work down here. He was working in Harrisburg. I never really had a reason to leave this area, and so here I am.
Perfect, yeah. And I don't know, did I ever get your husband's name? Because we were talking about him before we started.
Yeah, his name's Joe.
Joe. Shout out to Joe.
Yeah.
He's doing some awesome stuff you mentioned down at Tate Towers. Is that what
Tate Towers, yeah.
Very cool. So shout out to Joe. Maybe one day we'll get him on the podcast too.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to tell him.
That'd be cool.
That'd
be real cool. I was reading your form, and you had said that your journey into yoga began back in middle school?
Yeah. So my aunt was a yoga teacher. and practiced yoga for years.
Okay.
And so when I was younger, it wasn't uncommon for her to bring me a yoga book, a book on yoga, or a yoga DVD, or if I'm going to age myself here, a VHS tape on yoga.
VHS. Those are classic. A lot of people listening probably don't know what they are, but ask your parents because they exist and they're really cool.
Yes.
It's like a tape with imagery through it, and just ask your parents about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, she would give me this stuff.
Okay.
And so I was introduced to it pretty early on. And I found that yoga was super helpful for me, even in middle school, to help manage my anxiety. Because I also had some anxiety issues. And I felt like a lot of the books and the DVDs and stuff, they did a lot of focus on breath work as well.
Okay.
So taking deep breaths and doing the poses really helped ease my anxiety, helped me feel calmer.
Okay.
And that's how I started it, because it felt so good to just, go on the mat and breathe.
So what is, real quick, not to interrupt because I like where you're going, but a breathing exercise, like right now for the listeners, could we do one?
We could do one.
Okay, can you, all right, lead me through it, because I don't feel like I feel like a lot of people don't get like a deep breath.
So one of the important things to do is your posture. So you want to keep your spine straight. So if you're seated, you want to make sure your spine is straight so you have enough space in your body to feel your breath. You can either close your eyes or soften your gaze. And then just for a moment, just check in with your breathing. Notice the inhales come and the exhales go. Notice maybe where you're feeling your breath. If it's maybe right above your upper lip, or maybe you feel it in your belly or your chest. Just notice what's happening. Once you kind of have a pinpoint on what's happening with your breath, begin to take a deep breath in through your nose and an exhale through your nose. Take another deep breath in through your nose. Maybe hold it for a second at the top and then exhale out through your nose. One more time. Inhale through your nose. Hold it at the top for a second and then open your mouth side out.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
That does feel very like calming.
Just an example.
Yeah, that's perfect. In middle school, you mentioned some anxiety, and getting these VHS tapes, DVDs, and books from your aunt really helped. Yeah. What was it at school? Just the pressures of tests and friends and things? Or?
I have always been a very shy child. I don't know if you can see it now as an adult, but when I was little, I was super shy, super introverted. Even just going to school, the act of like being around other kids was just terrifying to me.
I could see definitely that being overwhelming, especially bigger schools,
right,
with hundreds of kids. I could definitely see that and trying to fit in.
Yep. And so from the time I was little, I had that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That really propelled you and helped you overcome your anxiety.
Yeah, I would say especially, and middle school is such a hard age group. I know for myself, I guess I could speak for myself, but I've heard that middle school can be tough.
Oh, I think so.
So I think that was just a great turning point for me to be like, now that I'm old enough, I can do something about it. Of course, therapy is a nice tool and a good place to go to get help as well. But when I was that young, and I mean, we're talking about the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
So at that time, for me, doing things on my own was super helpful, and I was able to figure out something that really clicked for me. And for me, that was yoga to help with my anxiety.
I guess my take on like yoga, for instance, is very calming, very relaxing, but I never really thought about it for like you mentioned, anxiety or, but I guess it makes total sense because that's the whole point, is to calm your mind, calm your body, stretch and get in like a flow state.
Don't get me wrong. It's a good exercise too.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, there's different types of yoga. And I think it's like it's one of those things where it can ease your mind, ease your body, but also give you a good workout too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's a perfect segue because literally the next question I have here, you kind of also began practicing yoga, just as an exercise first. And then you found how helpful it was with your anxiety and your, headaches and overall stress level.
Yeah.
What are some of the types of yoga.
Sure. Yeah, I mentioned too, like it wasn't just anxiety. I was getting some headaches and I had asthma and stuff too. So yoga was really helping with a lot of that. I mean, it wasn't like an automatic fix, but it was helpful. So the types of yoga, there's so many. I am currently doing a lot of what is called vinyasa, or it's a flowy kind of yoga. You might see the titles of yoga classes as being vinyasa or flow, and they're a lot of matching breath with movement. So they are a mover. They get your heart pumping. It is more of a workout.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I've been teaching and practicing for a lot of years. I also do a bit of power yoga too. So power yoga is, I think it came from a man by the name of Baron Baptiste. He kind of put this power yoga together. And you might also see the name Ashtanga, which kind of is like the roots of his power yoga.
Okay.
Again, a workout. You're doing a lot of repetitions in power yoga. So that's one branch.
Yeah. So power yoga is, you mentioned a lot of movements where the flow is more practicing on the breathing with controlled movements maybe.
Yes. So there's different kinds of, there's a sequence that you do. And in power yoga, you're going to be doing a lot more reps, doing a lot more rounds, maybe holding something pretty for a while.
Like something heavy, like a weight? Or
like holding
hold
a pose. So like if you're,
okay.
I don't know if for the listeners out there what chair pose is. It's like you're sitting in a chair, but the chair's not there. They might make you hold it. Or they might make you do some reps and do like some squats and then hold it. So very intense, it'll get your blood pumping.
Yeah. Get your heart going.
Get your heart going, yes.
Okay. Now, are there other types? I was talking to my wife about this beforehand because I'm like,
Yes.
what kind of questions did you have? Because she helps me so much with questions and things like that for the guests. I had thrown out, I think there's like a hot yoga, and I know it's popular, but I don't know if it's a type or if it's just like a fad, but the goat yoga thing.
Okay.
So what's that? Yeah.
Sure. I'll start with the hot yoga. So hot yoga, they call it that now, or they were calling it a little bit. It used to be Bikram yoga. There was a little bit of controversy with the Bikram guy. So they kind of separated themselves from the name, and now it's hot yoga. The room is heated to like 100 and correct me if I'm wrong out there, like 104 to 106 degrees.
Oh, wow.
It's a hot room, and they have a certain sequence, and you do the same sequence every class from beginning to end. And it's a very heated room. And the idea is, you're heating yourself up. You're warming the tissues of your body up. You're getting toxins out is the kind of their theory. And yeah, it's definitely a workout.
Yeah.
So think about if you've had a workout and you're sweating a lot, that's it. That's what you want to achieve in hot yoga.
So it's like yoga in a sauna.
It's yoga in a sauna. Now there is a branch, and I do it, a heated yoga. So a lot of times you'll do they'll call it a warm vinyasa.
Okay.
That's something that I would teach. Or they'll say just a warm yoga. That the room's only heated to like 80 to 90 degrees.
Ooh,
so it's
still a little warm, yeah.
But not as hot as hot yoga. Again, the idea is you don't have to do a lot of the stretching and warming up to get your muscles limber and ready to do poses. The heat does it for you.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of helps you get warmed up before you get into the sequence.
Okay. Yeah, it makes total sense.
And during. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, of course, right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, the temperature of the room is a difference.
Is a big difference, I'd imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The goat yoga thing, is that, what is that?
I have to admit, I have not done goat yoga yet. I have had several requests and several people asking me to go to a goat yoga class, and I know some people offer it in this area somewhere. I know there's a place in Grantville that does it sometimes.
Okay.
I'm sure it depends on when the baby goats are around.
Right. Of course. Yeah. It's on their schedule, kind of.
It's on their schedule.
Right.
Yeah. So one of these days I'm going to get to it. But the idea is you do yoga around the baby goats, and baby goats love to climb. They like climbing rocky surfaces. And so imagine if you're, in a yoga pose, let's say, again, if you're a yoga person in a down dog, those goats are going to want to climb.
And they get up on your back.
And they get up on your back, and it's really cute.
I've seen pictures and like video and stuff, and I'm like, that's interesting because you think
cute.
their hooves, I know, oh, they look so cute for sure, but their hooves you think are kind of like,
Yeah.
I guess there's like a deep tissue massage too then. Kind of.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I was told if you're going to go to goat yoga, wear not your fancy athletic wear.
That's true,
Wear
right.
some looser clothing that you don't mind getting a little muddy, or maybe get little
Something
on.
else.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So
Right.
just, dress appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where goat yoga is just fun. If you love animals, especially little baby goats,
Oh my
and
gosh,
you
yeah.
don't mind like moving around a little bit, you can do goat yoga.
You get a great exercise. You can relax and see some cute goats.
Yeah, it's just a fun, another experience. So one of
Very
these
cool.
days I'll get out there and do it. But
Yes. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So
Yeah,
cool.
I love
to-
animals.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. My wife and I, we cats and dogs. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. Let's kind of throw it back to LVC, because for I think roughly 15 years or over 15 years, you were a mental health consultant. Love to talk about that. Like you mentioned, you got
Sure.
your master's degree in clinical psychology, and you're a licensed professional counselor.
Yeah. So I was a mental health counselor for, I want to say like altogether, it's been like 17 years as a counselor, something like that. I've been in the field for a really long time. I left the profession about a year ago when I started the yoga teacher training. I also had a daughter. Right around the time I had my daughter, I decided to work towards a career shift. But the mental health counseling field, it's still within me. I still use those skills even in yoga. Yeah, so I got my undergrad psychology degree from LVC. I got my graduate clinical psychology degree from Millersville University. And then I became a licensed professional counselor at some point after that,
Okay.
like right away. Yeah. And then for the longest time, I worked at a couple of different agencies. The last one, I worked over at TW Panessa for a while.
Okay. Yes.
I want to say like 12 years, or no, 9 years? 9 years. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was,
Oh, wow.
I was there for a while too.
Why the transition to yoga? I mean, you have such a long career, in this field, and also, were you nervous to make this jump and kind of get out?
Yes. I think, I spent so many years in the mental health field, and I loved it, and I loved the people, and it was very intrinsically rewarding for me for so many years. That being said, it was 2020, the pandemic hit.
Right.
It was a lot. The mental health field got really different. I mean, people were very much in need of services for sure, but we couldn't be seeing each other face to face. So the in-person counseling sessions were completely cut off for a while, and we had to do a lot of telehealth. And so my job, at the time of the pandemic, I was working with children and their families for a while, and it was very one-on-one, hands-on kind of counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the pandemic hit, I had to see them through a computer screen, and it was just not the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely not.
It became
Yeah.
very stressful trying to help my clients, get the help they need and do it not face to face. It was just very hard to do.
Yeah.
And so I felt that I needed, at least in my phase of life, or at this time in my life, to kind of take a transition and take a break, for whatever that meant to me anyway, was to take a break. And so I had my daughter that year. So August of 2020, I had my daughter. And within that year, I had left TW Panessa, and then signed up for a yoga teacher training, because I said, you know what? The stress is really high right now for everyone, including myself.
Yeah.
I am stressed out. Maybe I should say, like, I was getting burned out. It's one of those things I still stumble over. I don't want to say that I was getting burned out, but
Yeah.
I think I was getting burned
Burned out.
Yeah.
And you have to realize, I think, too, it's
Yeah.
important to realize when it's like you are getting burned out, and it's,
Yes.
like you said, it's not the same the face-to-face in-person meeting, I think, is so much more powerful than any Zoom or Teams or anything like that.
And it was so hard. And especially working with kids. Kids don't want to stare at you on a screen.
Yeah, they want to see you in person.
They want to see me in person.
Yeah.
They want to see me sitting on the floor with them and playing and, that kind of thing. And same with the parents. They don't want to just stare at a face,
Right. It's not the same.
Yeah, it was just really weird.
When you made the switch, I mean, obviously you had a lot of things were going on in the world and also, in your personal life, a lot of great things going on. What was the process like to become a certified yoga instructor?
Just going back just for a second.
Please, yes.
So like the yoga switch was, I always thought to myself, yoga always gave me a safe base. It gave me a place to, when I was stressed out, when things didn't feel like they were going right, I went back to my mat. I started to practice more yoga.
Okay.
And so it was one of those thought process things where I said, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. It's been a really stressful time. Let me get back to yoga, whatever that looks like. So the yoga teacher training was something for me that I wasn't sure if I wanted to teach at the end of the training. I just know I wanted to learn more about yoga. I wanted to kind of immerse myself in yoga. So, fast forward to that time, a little bit more than a year ago, I signed up for it's probably been 2 years if I think about how long it took to get through the training. But I signed up for this training, Studio B Power Yoga.
Shout out Studio B.
Yes, they are pretty cool. They're in Lingelstown right now. Great trainers, great yoga teachers. And I didn't know exactly what to expect when I went into this yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
I went online and I looked up who's a good yoga teacher
I was gonna say,
trainer.
How'd you find them? Yeah, that's okay. Google.
I Googled it, and I knew I used to go to a place called Yoga on Chocolate in Hershey, and Studio B kind of had Yoga on Chocolate for a while. It was kind of like they were connected. And I was like, well, I've been to that studio before. I'm going to go with Studio B because I know I've taken classes with that group of people before.
Right.
So it's
more
going to be
of a comfort
good.
level too. Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of, and it got good, looking online, it just looked like a really good program. And it was.
Yeah, that's perfect. Right. Of course, because you're still doing it now. Yeah, it's a phenomenal program.
A great program.
Yeah. Well, and I think could be a good tie-in. Sometimes from like an outsider's perspective, some people might look at yoga as being almost like a clique, right? You have your certain mat and your certain outfit, and the group knows each other so well, and all of a sudden here comes this random newcomer, and they're like looked at. Is that like? How it is sometimes?
It's there's a culture, and I would say it's a small group, and I would say most of the people out there teaching and doing yoga are not like that. So that's the trick to it. So yeah, like I heard this from friends before of like, is there like a Mean Girls vibe going on at some of these studios? And I would say yes, sometimes. But for the most part, most of the people are super kind, super welcoming. If you get to know them, they're good people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have a fancy mat. You can wear sweatpants. You do not have to have fancy clothes. Yeah. Even though, some of the people might come in wearing those fancy clothes, you do not have to.
Come as you are.
Come as you are.
And socialize and be yourself.
Most important that you're, be comfortable. Be comfortable with what you're wearing. Be comfortable with your mat. Yeah, being yourself. And it's a great social outlet, period. Because if you go into a yoga class and you're working out together, you're breathing together, you're moving and breathing together and doing the same routine, there's this feeling of connection you get that you wouldn't feel anywhere else. You almost have to experience it yourself to understand it a little bit.
Like you're in sync almost. It makes sense because, thinking about some of the other sports I've played, like track and field, is very individually based. Football's a team sport, but you're all doing different things, where yoga, it's like I said, same movement, same breathing.
Yes. And it's not a competitive sport.
Right.
So it's such an individual, personal thing too. On the one hand, you're doing this for yourself. You're supposed to listen to your own body, listen to your own breath. But at the same time, you're in this, if you go into a studio to practice yoga, you're kind of all doing it together. And there's this camaraderie that happens that maybe you might have felt in another kind of team sport that you also get in yoga. So yeah, it helps to actually find a studio you like, because then you can have like a social connection with people too.
You had touched on it, but let's go a little bit deeper. The type of yoga you teach again.
It's a vinyasa flow yoga.
Okay.
Yeah. So vinyasa kind of means flow or connecting breath with movement. And I am substitute teaching over at, here's another plug, Brownstone Station Wellness Center. I'm substitute teaching over there right now, and my classes are called Warm Vinyasa.
Okay, and where's this located?
This is in Hummelstown.
Oh, Hummelstown.
Right across from the Soda Jerk. Like if you go down the street there.
It's not far at all. Okay.
Very easy to get to.
Where do you see like your business being in the future? Like what would be a goal?
I would say, I love to teach, and I love to practice yoga. So finding a good balance there is super key. I want to try to teach more in my community. I know there's not a lot that I know of in Lebanon, but I kind of foresee myself trying to reach out to my community and teach, in this area more. Yeah. The closest I've been teaching is Hummelstown. I am also teaching at a community center in a 55 plus neighborhood. Okay. In Lebanon. So I was able to get kind of to reach out there. Yeah. But I feel like more community yoga, like more of a public space would be good for me. I do have to kind of wait and see how my daughter, like with my daughter, she's number one priority, of course. So figuring out how to fit my yoga stuff in with her schedule is going to be ideal.
It's crucial, right? Yeah, it's very important. Yeah. My wife and I actually just had our first, a baby girl. Now she's 10 months, so she's a baby. Yeah, but I know exactly what you mean. It's like your whole world is around your child, and you have to go about your daily routine differently. It's not all about you anymore. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And some of the people, because when Colleen had reached out, she's like, hey, Julie's in the area. She's looking for places. And two that I can think of off the bat, I don't know if you've tried reaching out, and I might be able to get some emails. I know the one I can, but like the YMCA with Phil Tipton.
I know like someone teaches over there. Yeah. And I don't know who it is, but it would be nice for me to reach out to know who it is, to kind of be like, hey.
Yeah. And I feel like they do multiple classes. I feel like that could be a good connection, especially with your background, in mental health as well, and dealing with children and things like that. The other one, a little bit more familiar, it's a nonprofit 501c called NIC Services. NIC Services, okay. Yeah, so NIC stands for New Image Camps for Kids. Oh, yeah, so it's right here in Lebanon County. They've been around, my gosh, for many years now. I don't know the exact number, but it's all about the youth here in Lebanon, and they will fund and raise funds for the children to do art classes, karate, music, equestrian, so all across the board. And I know they just recently opened up their own space, their own studio, very nice, new flooring, new walls, bathroom, a little kitchen. I think it's AC, AC and things like that, heat and everything. So I think that could be good, and that's Richard and Gordon. Okay. So I'm going to try to get you in touch with them. Okay. I feel like it could be a really good opportunity. And guys, if you're listening, I think Julia could be a really, really good fit for you. And they're always looking for members. And what's nice about it is they have a good group of people. It could be a good opportunity. Okay. So
that's neat. Okay. I love that. Yeah. I am kind of wanting to reach out and kind of see what's out there. So that's super helpful. And I think right now, I'm substitute teaching just to kind of have a little bit more wiggle room with my daughter. But yeah, I'm really open to seeing what else is out there, just to kind of, like you said, plan ahead for what my future yoga teaching career looks like.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can, there's so many opportunities and different ways you can go about it. Now, one of the questions, because my wife asked, she's like, well, maybe I'd like to take a class. How can the average person get in touch with you and take one of your classes? Okay. Yeah. So I do have a Facebook page. It's Yoga with Julia J. You would type that in to kind of find me. There is like a purple lotus logo that pops up. So you'll kind of see that. And then you'll see my picture and some of the photos as well. And that's a public Facebook page. So you can kind of message me on that. I substitute teach over at Brownstone Station. Like I said,
And so, yeah, I'm open to people reaching out through Facebook, and that's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So what
Yeah.
motivates you day in and day out to be the best version of yourself?
What motivates me day in and day out? Oh my goodness. I would say, I mean, of course, just being able to stop. A lot of I have a little like affirmation that I say to myself every morning. I wake up and it's just 3 words. It's breathe, be present, love. Those are the 3 things I remind myself to do every day. So if I can stop and breathe, stay in the present moment, just take everything in, take time to take it all in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my guiding motivator is to just make sure I give and make sure I love myself and love other people. That's it.
That's it. And what would you say you are most passionate about in life?
Most passionate.
And a lot of times motivation and passion ties in,
It
but
is.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm most passionate about helping people feel that they are important, that they are loved. I think that's one of the passions for me. I'm motivated to, that's why I've done mental health counseling for years. That's why I'm teaching yoga and doing yoga, because I feel like it's so important. Wellness is such a huge thing too. Just taking care of yourself is so vital, I think.
Oh, I would agree, especially since COVID, since the pandemic, and how that has impacted everyone. And like you said, being shut in for almost 2 years, really, and how that affects people, whether they're, like I said, elderly or the youth of America. It's
like how to cope with that.
correct. Yeah, how do you cope with that stress and everything?
Different. Yeah.
Yoga could be a key for some people out there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if you had brought any items. I know the shirt we talked about,
I
which
shirt.
I think it's awesome. Yeah. So there'll be pictures on American Grown Podcast, Facebook, and Instagram. I thought that's awesome. And those are different poses.
Yeah, those are all the different yoga poses. Not all of them, but there's a bunch of them on here. It's the American flag. And instead of the red stripes, it's different yoga poses in red, but they're
it's perfect.
Poses,
it's perfect for the
stripes.
podcast and everything. Yeah, for the American Grown Podcast. Awesome. Yeah. So, and how can our listeners, connect with you and follow along on your journey? I know you mentioned the Facebook. Just shout that out again.
Yeah. So I have a Facebook page, Yoga with Julia J. You can type that into your search bar and look me up, and I post videos, I post pictures, quotes, here and there. Of course, again, I keep bringing up my daughter, but it is a thing. Like the posting, sometimes I have to post with her right there. So you might not get them every single week, but I pop them up every once in a while.
Very good. And do you do, I just thought about it, maybe something you could do. Do you do any videos on there, like how-to videos?
I do. Yeah, there's a couple of how-to videos, like how to get into certain poses. I have a couple of like warm-up sequences. How to do a sun salutation is in there.
Okay, wait, what's a sun salutation?
If you go to a yoga class, you should definitely know how to do one. It's a sequence, and it's something you do in the beginning of a yoga practice, and it helps to warm your body up and stretch it out before you get into the more challenging poses. There's poses that fit inside the sun salutation. So it's a thing.
I had no clue. Yeah.
It's hard for me to.
Sun salutation. Yeah. My mind just goes to, and this is so random, but like just a sun setting and just like a wave, maybe like salutation, like hi. I don't know.
Hi, sun.
Yeah, I know.
Yoga is such an ancient practice. Yeah. It comes from that. So there is like this whole like saluting the sun thing that's where in Sanskrit it kind of comes from that.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it's been westernized.
Yeah,
we still do the sun salutations though.
Okay, very important, very important. I wonder how long yoga has been around. Now that you mentioned,
so many years, thousands.
I think like the Egyptians were probably doing it, like way back.
It's a long time ago. Yes, I wish I knew exactly, but it's like thousands of years old.
Wild. So before we close out, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
Check out my Facebook page. Yeah, I look forward to seeing some of you in some of my classes. Look for my name, Julia Jiorle. In some of the studio, like Brownstone Station will have my name up in some of the classes. So check me out.
Jiorle, yoga instructor and mental health consultant on the American Grown podcast in the ColorTech Creative Solutions Studios. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You did great.
Yeah,
High five.
thank you.
Yeah, you did. To see photos of today's guests and more content, just search American Grown Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to be a featured guest on the podcast, please direct message or email Austin at americangrownpod@gmail.com.